Hello, Moon to Moon. How are you? It's been a while. I've been traveling, taking some time off, listening to what wants to come up for me when I'm away from my emergence astrology world, allowing myself to be shaped and remade by my journeys. And I'm still really finding words for what I've been learning from that. And I'm gonna wait to share more about my trip at the Dark Moon Download. I just have this feeling like the Dark Moon Download is going to reveal what I'm hoping to be revealed about the last month as we close the lunar cycle that began with the new moon in Cancer. So that will probably be published around Monday, Monday or Tuesday, before we have our next new moon in Leo, which will be, of course, an eclipse. So we're about to be entering eclipse season. You could say that we're already in it. And I talk about the month of August in my Scopes Unshamed for August. That's a project that I'm doing in YouTube. So if you're watching Moon to Moon in YouTube, you can just slide on over to the Scopes Unshamed section where I speak about the eclipse from my perspective and for your rising sign. But yeah, today I'm coming on because I have a constellation of themes that are here that are forward. And really the heart of it, like what is the sun of this constellation? The sun in this constellation is Leo. So the sun, meditations on the sun, meditations on Leo, which is such an important sign for me as someone who has Saturn in Leo. And I'm forever learning about that, living into that, being remade by it. I don't presume to have all the answers. I am forever a student of Saturn, and I'm so grateful that I was born with Saturn in detriment in Leo. So, yeah, there's a lot of energy in the sign of my Saturn, and a lot is coming up. A lot is coming up in the field. So, let me share a little bit about kind of like the general itinerary of this episode. I'm going to imagine that it's going to be at least an hour. I'm going to drop in and just go where it takes me with the intention to touch on an interrelationship and an interconnectedness between these topics. There's the topic of my mentorship group that's coming up, Ablaze. Ablaze is returning for its second round, being remade and reformed for its next becoming. And I'm calling in 5 to 9 human beings for that. So I'm going to share some about that. It's going to be in this iteration, I think, deeply shaped by the fact that Jupiter is in Leo for this whole coming year, starting this summer. We have Jupiter in Leo now, and that's going to be a big theme of this episode is thoughts I'm having around Jupiter and Leo. So I'm calling in human beings who are like ear to the ground, really learning with that and want to be fortified by a very expansive space and also a focusing space and a healing space, and most especially a clarifying space for your leadership. I want to talk about Six of Wands because Six of Wands is associated astrologically with Jupiter and Leo. And it's a forever fascinating card to me. And it will give me an opportunity to like dig in deeper to Jupiter and Leo and some of the big themes right now, as well as share some of my frameworks around moving from fives to sixes and holding inside of six to sixes, as well as the kind of turn to the seven that ultimately follows sixes and what we can learn from that in this time. I want to weave in some of my contemplations and memorial around the death of Carolyn Elliott. You may not know who Carolyn Elliott is. You may very well know who Carolyn Elliott is, but most people who've been in my ecosystem a while know that Carolyn was one of my most impactful teachers, especially in the first half of my career. And my leaving of her world was really important in my pathway. And Carolyn very recently died. And so I want to share some. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but she's very in my mind and heart right now. And I have thoughts about this that you may want to hear, knowing that her work affected me and her persona affected me. And you learn with me too. So I have some words there, especially as they relate to Leo and Jupiter and Leo and Six of Wands. So it'll very naturally fit into this larger contemplation. And then I want to weave in the Odyssey wherever the Odyssey wants to come in because I think the Odyssey has a lot to get to give to us in a conversation about Six of Wands. So yeah, that's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun to explore all of this with you. My deck advised me that my role in this episode is King of Cups. This is not a problem. I'm used to holding that one. Oh, okay. It reminded me to speak to Seven of Wands, so I'm not going to ignore the seven. And then at the heart of the episode, my deck says Ace of Pentacles. So what I felt there is that my invitation to you is to notice like what I share here seeds something for you that really plants something into your field that you can watch grow. I have told my students, I teach on all the cards in emergence astrology, and I don't feel that that card comes up very often. For me, the Ace of Pentacles gets your attention because we don't plant seeds that we're going to tend over long periods of time every single day because it's a big commitment to tend to the Ace of Pentacles. It suggests a long unfolding. And so the fact that that came up, it feels like perhaps for me and for you, there's something coming through that we're going to watch grow over time. So take it or leave it. All right, here we go. So let me just begin by with the time sensitive thing that I'm calling in 5 to 9 human beings who are really up for investing in something big, um, in their creative pathway, their business pathway, their the fortification of their leadership to a kind of new timeline. Um, This space is definitely not for everybody. It's for particular people out there, maybe you, listener, who you're in a place in your business pathway. You're a you have a business. You have a business that centers around your creativity, your service, your intuition, your gifts, and you are at a point of stewarding that along where to me, this is a real like make a choice time in a pathway. The kinds of people I'm calling in, where you are realizing that in order to go to the next chapter of your business, some things are going to have to change. Like you've been comfortable building it as it is. You've gotten to a good place, like maybe you feel really solid in it as a part-time gig, or maybe you're even coming close to being full-time and you feel proud of that. Like you've done a lot. You have business and you know that like this level of comfort that you have is a signal that that you have a resistance to where your next becoming is. Like there's a version of you holding your business differently, and you may be a little bit frightened of that version of you because you've never inhabited that version of you yet. This version of you is probably holding the malefics with more confidence and embodiment. By that, I mean Mars, Sun, and Saturn, especially. But I think, frankly, all the planets have malefic qualities and benefit qualities. But that's my take. But I am known for helping people with their malefics. That's just one of the things that I hear again and again is why people have chosen me to be their mentor. They want me to be their mentor because they can see that I'm like a very naturally benefic person in the sense that I've, a big old Pisces. And I have learned to cultivate at midlife a really strong relationship with my boundaries, with my standards that I hold in a way that you can feel it. It has gravity, it has weight, and it sings through the field in a way that you can sense that I trust myself. And then that because of that, you can trust me. You can trust me to be holding the space while you move yourself through your next threshold. And what you're wanting is to feel, is to like give yourself the fucking permission, like give yourself the permission. I can't give you the permission, but when you come into Ablaze, you're basically giving yourself the permission that you're desiring. And then by being in Ablaze, you're like holding to that for a nice 4 month chunk of time. That's a nice long amount of time to anchor it down and to be in a field with other people who are also leaders, who also know what it's like to be around this threshold. Everybody's threshold will look a little different. Some people may feel quote unquote further along than others. All of that stuff is kind of made up by humans. But the point is like you have momentum in your business. You're not like trying to figure out what your business even is. You have a business. You're moving it along. You want more momentum. You want more revenue. You want more something. But and you trust that this is going to be the place where you release these resistances, where you make this space for something more to come through because you're letting things go. So in this space, we're doing a lot of alchemy, which means that you are releasing even as you're building. You're building and releasing at the same time to come into new form with yourself so that on the other side and in the months and years that follow, you sense this kind of new version of yourself because you've molted. So I'm kind of the queen of molting. Call me the molting queen. or king, frankly, King of Cups. Very comfortable in the kings myself. And I'd love to have you because I'm so into this. Like, I'm so into this in an unapologetic way. I'm so into unshaming, wanting more. I'm so into the unshaming of wanting to reveal more of yourself to yourself through your work, through your craft, through your service, through your artistry, through your becoming and healing. You reveal yourself to yourself. And in order to reveal, you have to peel things off, right? And that's where it's scary. But that's kind of my specialty. I mean, it is, frankly. So we start pretty soon, relatively. We start Thursday, August 13th. If you can't make the first one, no big deal. I know it's short notice. But usually for these kinds of things, these just fill real fast for me with the people who just recognize instantly, like, oh, this was the thing I was looking for. I want it. Let's go. You can work the logistics out later. When you come in, you get access to the entire Mystics Making Money school, set of teachings, which is now valued at into the thousands. So you're going to get the five that have already happened and the two that are coming up. And while we'll be together, and that will be like a really rich curriculum space for you to dive into in a territory where you can allow yourself to be molting with the material. And then I'm there for you with what comes up. Because the point of a mentorship space is really not teaching, it's not a teaching space, it's a relational space. It's about intimacy. It's the intimacy that creates the catalyst for change. So that's why it's a very small group. And that's why it's a high investment, is because we're investing in the kind of change that comes with deep intimacy, which is super, super powerful, in part because it's vulnerable. The vulnerability of being seen and what you want, right? Because in order to go further, the first person that you have to address that to is yourself. That's going to be the hardest thing because we have these protectors that will be like, "Oh, I don't want that. I don't need that." They're protecting us from the high sensation of what a vulnerable thing it is to say what you want. And I'm someone who's just really celebrating of that. And I think it's exciting. I think it's sexy. I just respect it. I respect the honesty of vulnerability. I think it's ultimately what strength is to be vulnerable and then to take action from that vulnerability. So if you're into it and you get this, you hear this right away. If you sign up Thursday, Friday, the 6th or 7th, so this is coming out the morning of the 6th. If you sign up right away, you get a free bonus one-on-one session with me. You can always buy it later if you miss the early bird, or just aren't ready to decide. You could still buy it later, if you want it. But that way you have some one-on-one time with me to just like really sit in the long time of my 100% focus on you and helping you to like see exactly what it's time for you to see in this moment for both the for the alchemy meaning what needs to be released and how you can build, because you need both things for change. You need to be able to release something and you need to build something. So, yeah, I'm kind of like visualizing it almost like in this, like, I don't know, maybe it's Odysseus and then Athena, but I'm just seeing this picture of like a council, like a war council. Sorry to bring in war metaphors, but like in terms of strong, bringing in the strong parts of us who are strategic and want to put our focused strength to what really matters to us in this world. And we're bringing in a council for wisdom, a council for wisdom, which is what mentorship is. It's a space for wisdom to be spoken, which you can then take or leave as resonates for you. When you like leave the tent, and then we come back into the tent, and then you go out into the world, and you come back into the tent, and there that back and forthness is where life happens, and you can come back and seek my counsel on the things that come up as you're implementing and as you're doing the alchemy. That just feels so good to me, and it really feels like how it feels like the palace, the asteroid in my chart is exact Neptune in my ninth house of Sagittarius. And I do like to share that very broadly all the time. I do it on moon to moon. And the idea of like just giving it one on one to someone who's in a specific situation, they're in a specific question, they're having a specific uncertainty, confusion, a thorny issues come up, they're navigating a resistance, they're navigating a fear. It's just so beautiful to me. Is why I love Q&As in my classes. I love to speak like directly to something that somebody's going through and just like let the wisdom come through. It feels so good to me, which is why I create Ablaze. All right. So that's coming up. And to me, the one of the inspiring frequencies of Ablaze this fall, and I imagine it will be important to the Ablaze in the spring. If I do it in the spring, I don't know that I will, but if I did, it would still be inside of Jupiter and Leo. Is like really feeling into what it means to be a son, to be a son for your community. And this brings me to a theme that came forward in my travels because one of the places that I went in my travels was Scotland. I the whole reason I went to Europe is to go to a 3-night experience called Pagan Camp, led by a longtime mentor friend, Danica Boyce. Many of you may know Danica's work. She has had this podcast for years called the Fair Folk Podcast, and she loves to study pre-Christian European ritual practice, both chronicling history, but also engaging with practitioners who are in deep study, but they're also embodying ritual, song, and ceremony of pre-Christian European traditions. And Danica has a massive heart, and her sense of standard and principle come through really strong in her work. You just feel it. And there are very, very few people who could host a retreat that I would say yes to. Like, I don't even know if there's anybody else. I mean, I'm a very particular person um, when it comes to like the vulnerability of being a captive audience for 3 days somewhere. Um, and share being with people all day long. Uh, yeah, no, I'm a very private person. I am a 12th house person. I'm a caves person. Um, I I value my alone time so much, like as a rare person that I would even think for a second about joining someone in a 3-day retreat. Um, but I love Danica. And Matt in this winter took her pagan songwriting class. Many of you know Matt Bull, my romantic life partner, boyfriend, husband, except we're not getting married. Um, and uh, he signed up for her class because he felt called to. And he is like one of those people who kind of does all the arts. Like he would call it in a half-assed way. That would be his words. He's highly talented, but like he doesn't really want to be an expert at anything. And he felt music in him that was ready to come through. And he was so prolific in this class that he is now putting out an album this fall. Many of you know this. So he's really fresh off Danica's genius. And so when I saw that she was doing this, it was like, well, that's nice for people in Scotland. And then she reached out to me and is like, Britten, when I created this, I wondered if you could come. Like, I wondered if Britten would come. And that was just the nudge that I needed. It was a real validation of nudging, nudging generally, because I was like, what? Oh, well, of course I can. And immediately we're like, Matt, we got to go to Scotland this summer. We got to go. And so the whole experience that I just took in Europe, which ended up extending to 2 weeks, came out of going to pagan camp. Okay. And the idea here is she was gathering other facilitators who are like seriously living the traditions of their lineage and have studied this deeply, and they actually are practitioners. And so they are ceremonialists, ritualists, and singers, artists, musicians, extraordinary. So, one of the things that really struck me in this space, and I believe me, we are getting to Leo, okay? Here it comes. Uh, One of the things that really struck me was kind of what it was like when we would go around the group, and then it was like it was time to share your voice. Um, but especially it struck me at night when we did these campfires, and you could volunteer yourself to read a poem, sing a song, or invite the group into a group song, or tell a story, like entertain us, entertain us. And like it was a wild experience for me because I regularly hold microphones. Um, and I do it from the space of consent. Like we've had an agreement. You choose to come listen to this podcast. I'm not making you. You're not required to listen to this. When you come into my classroom, like you've told me I have consent to share my wisdom by paying me, right? So, it was a wild thing to just kind of sit there like, am I going to bring something through? Am I going to bring something through? Like, should I take up the space? Should I volunteer myself? Like, what if people don't find entertainment in what I bring? Or what if people judge it? Or what if it's like people can't wait to like hurry up and finish so the next person can go? And these are all because they're all coming from Danica's sun, and Danica's sunlight constellated everybody there. Her sun was the constellating force, and she is a very like she has this deep intelligence, this academic background, so smart, but also so musical and creative. So it was full of like highly intelligent, creative people, so like a pretty great group of people to spend 3 days with. Because that's what happens when you constellate is everybody constellates around the sun that's doing the constellating. But then when I get there, it's not really about Danica anymore. It's about each other and sitting across from one another and spending time together and just seeing the sun in each of these people and just falling in love with everybody and just really, really, really feeling their sunlight and seeing how this works in community. This is like the Leo Aquarius polarity at play. Like when you are a leader, you gather people together from the generosity of your sun that's really just beaming. It's not like if people just feel it, it's like you don't have to describe it. Fire is nonverbal. So you're emanating this light and people are coming around you Whether you have a very, very intimate small community, whether you have a massive community, it's the same functioning. But then when you come together as a community, and of course, I see this in my communities. I'm not ignorant to this. We just talked about it in the Living Emergence Leo meetup that like I am aware that I do this too, you know. And I'm aware that this is why people fall in love with each other in my communities is like that constellating force was so powerful that then everybody's so happy to greet each other's sons and to warm each other. And people often then join each other's communities where, you know, you're a son there. And community is so powerful when we all appreciate one another as sons and we all give generously from our sons. So, back to the campfire, you know, it was interesting watching myself kind of go through this like inner debate about whether I should throw my voice in because, you know, there's like 30 some people and we can't all speak. And if I speak, then I'm depriving somebody else potentially of the time to speak. And you know, just like a lot of old, like middle school stuff coming up too, around like people don't like it when I take up space. People get mad at me when I'm too visible. Um, and just like, you know, I know, yeah, I am like every day doing my parts work, like helping myself along, like, tell me more about that. You don't think people want to hear you? So, what was really striking was the next day in kind of just like a casual hangout space when we had free time. This man, his name is Dougie. He's a Scottish storyteller, incredible storyteller. And he was talking about how in older days in the past, to, you know, when you would travel, what you're bringing to the space is your stories. Like people are going to feed you, people will entertain, you know, they'll give you food and shelter, and you as the traveler bring news, you bring stories, you bring gossip, you bring a song, you bring a poem, and that entertainment is like the exchange. Then he also said that in these times to not have a song, a poem, or a story to tell was a particularly acute form of poverty, a form of poverty. Why? Because it's what you offer. Your story, your song, your poem is what you offer, is your gift in exchange. Whoa. I have full body tingles just retelling it. A particular form of poverty. So the night before, I didn't sing in the group. That night, I raised my hand because it was like, no, this is what I'm offering the group. This is my offering. I've loved being with you. I love this experience. I'm going to offer this from my heart. And I offered a group song that you do in round that I've loved since I was a little kid from this camp that I went to where we learned old songs uh, from from Sweden, frankly, because it was an emergent language summer camp where my daughters are currently at now on staff. So proud of them. So, um, yeah, I would want you, listener, to think about this in terms of Leo, because Leo is the hardest way because it's the way of the sun. And because of shame, the sun is the hardest placement in our chart. Holding for effect. Yeah, it's true. Leo is the way of the sun, and the sun is where we have the most shame. So there's no time like the present to get into some healing. Let's get into some repair. Let's get into some unshaming. It's a beautiful time to notice the stories that we have about why sharing ourselves wouldn't matter to people and really like bust up that shame because we're here, I would say, to share our light with one another, our beingness. It's not about doing. It's not about like, I know a lot. That's why you should listen to me. No, it's presence and fire. It comes through the frequency of our presence. And the more we unshame, the more we land into presence. I have found to be true. Um, so we're learning a lot here. And we have Jupiter and Leo now for lots of fun learning. I actually have, let's see, today, Mars is, what was it? I wrote it down. Today I have Mars conjunct my Jupiter in Gemini, and I have Mars sextile my Saturn in Leo because I have Jupiter and Saturn sextile. And there's a particular like energy behind me talking about Jupiter and talking about Saturn and Leo today. Um, we have Jupiter and Leo for a year, really opening up this space. And when we talk about Jupiter, we often talk about like the good things, like, yes, the benefits of this, abundance, fortune. But at the same time, Jupiter really is going to show you what's here. Jupiter is going to expand what's here. So if what's here is shame, y'all, it may not be always comfortable because we're going to be really confronted with where we have distortions around Leo, both outside of us, we're going to see it around us, and within us, where we have our own distortions. And, you can probably expect that things may come up where that is like reflected within and without, where you're seeing it in somebody else and you're like, oh, look at that. Look at that, shadow Leo or some kind of way of thinking about somebody operating in Leo that you might say is a way that you don't like. And then watch as it gets mirrored back to you as potentially something to see in yourself. So full compassion for everything that we'll be noticing because the way of Leo is not easeful in our world. It's not. And but man, what a great place for repair. What a great place for repair we've got here. So, I mean, I've got my notebooks out, I got my glasses on, nerd alert, ready to learn with Leo. Because even if you have no Leo placements, I want you to hear me say this. Even if you have no Leo placements, the sun in your chart most cares about the affairs of the house where you have Leo. Okay, so no matter what sign and house you have your sun is most concerned with Leo and the affairs of the house where you have Leo. So you learn to grow skill in the house where you have Leo by getting deeper into the placement of your sun. So they go together. So for me, I have Leo in the 5th and I have the sun in the 12th in Pisces. So the more I tend to my 12th house Pisces ness, my beingness there, and really getting my solar vitamin with the 12th house, Really letting that freak flag out, the more I will be able to feel fulfilled in my creative life, my parenting life, my romances, my hobbies with my students. Fifth house is the idea. So you can play with that for yourself. Um, but of course, we also have an eclipse this month in Leo with the new moon. The second eclipse, because they always come in twos or threes, will be a full moon in Pisces, because by then the sun will be in Virgo. So the thematics may feel a little different around then. But um, there's going to be a lot of Leo themes going on right now as this is coming out. They're already out for us to see. Usually, what the eclipses do is they reveal what was already there. We just didn't see it. So, what can feel painful about it is not just what's been revealed, but the fact that it was there all along. So, there's kind of a level of shame around it that we were not noticing. Um, that there's like almost like a betrayal to self and to community that we were kind of blind to something. That's how I see it usually is like, whoa, that was here all along though. It was here all along. And now what do we do? And so it really is a great time to be a student and to not feel like you have to do something. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to say something until really feel available to speak, available to act, available to decide, because it will probably want to be shaken through all of your bodies with many sleeps to integrate and process and metabolize whatever's coming up. And it may feel very personal, it may feel very collective, it may be gentle, it may be hyper intense. It just depends on a variety of factors. So, yeah, now what I really like to do is switch to thinking about Jupiter and Leo from the perspective of Six of Wands. So you may know that in the tarot, the different cards have, each card has an astrological connection, whether it's to an element, to a planet, to a sign or particular planet in a sign. And you don't need to know any of this to play with the tarot. And you don't need to know about the tarot to engage with astrology. But I'm a person of synthesis, and I tend to attract people who like to play with different things altogether. So, Six of Wands. Well, first, let me say that the five, six, seven in the minor arcana all have to do with fixed signs. And then we just look at the element. So, with wands, we're talking about fire, the element of fire. And so it's the fixed fire. Fixed fire is Leo. Fixed fire is Leo. So 5, 6, 7 of wands is associated with Leo. The 5 of wands is associated with Saturn and Leo, which is my placement. The 6 of wands is associated with Jupiter and Leo. And then the 7 of wands is associated with Mars and Leo. And then these correspond to the 10-degree decans of that sign. So the first 10 degrees of Leo is associated with Saturn. The second, the middle decan is associated with Jupiter, and the third decan is associated with Mars. And so there's a lot of ways to play here for those of you who are going deeper and deeper into your studies of astrology and the tarot. So I am someone who's particularly obsessed with the bridge between fives and sixes. As you may know, the fives are all known as more difficult cards. It's a more in the sense that we're more in attention. We're in more like a square, we're in a kind of with experience with life. We're more in like a don't like situation, as Carolyn Elliott would say, where the fives is like hard, quote unquote. And then the sixes are generally associated with beauty and generosity. There's like something really sweet about the sixes for all the elements. And then the seven again drops into something more difficult, something harder. And so in a way, the to me, there's kind of an arc here where like the six is up in kind of a peaking moment where like life is good. Woohoo. And then like life is a cycle, like Jupiter, Wheel of Fortune. Like we're always in a cyclical experience with everything in our lives. And sixes tend to feel very up, like we're up in the experience and it feels really good. And we really see that in the Six of Wands because most decks show a person on a horse being celebrated in some way, or a person who's kind of up in their experience and like things are going great. Uh, and it's like we're celebrating this person is it's when like life is feeling good. Please just trust it's going to work out. Just trust it's going to work out. And in Underdog to Diva, which is a framework that I put out a few years ago that I don't really talk about as much anymore, but frankly, I think it's one of my most evocative frameworks. I talk about how, we can build a life from a five. I think that everybody has a five that is sort of like their pain story. It's the loss of innocence. It's the reason that life didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. For me, I feel mine is the Five of Cups, but everybody's going to be a little bit different between the suits there, because the Five of Cups has a lot to do with grief and loss, and that is very defining in my history. And I built a life from Five of Cups, and I built a beautiful life there. You can build a beautiful life from a five. But ultimately, your way of seeing the world, the lenses through which you see reality, the contract energy that you make with everything is coming from a story about lack, loss, difficulty, shame. And because that's the energy that's kind of the underwriting energy, it's very difficult to bounce into a timeline of like being celebrated, being quote unquote successful, getting what you want, manifesting the reality you most desire. It's like very difficult to get to that six if you see all reality through a five. Like the five is what you see, even if you create a beautiful life there. Um, so it's a big part of my story after divorce, my mystical life, which is my erotic life, which is my uh, entrepreneurial life. It's a huge part of my story that I had to reckon with this. I had to confront it, and I had to stop aestheticizing my pain. I had to I had to move through the grief of like letting go of what was beautiful about suffering, because suffering can be beautiful. And I had to I had to decide that there were other glasses that I could put on for me, like the six glasses. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to ever be in a five. Like, actually, grief is my service. Grief is my ultimate teacher. But it's like a new relationship to it, whereby grief is not like determining all consequences and results of my life. Grief is rather like a ceremony. It's a ritual. It's a, it's a portal I move through and then walk out of again to go back to my life where I am manifesting things. So in the six, that doesn't mean it's always easy though. I've learned because when you are holding to a six, it requires massive amounts of trust. Trust is my key word for Six of Wands, and that's Jupiter and Leo. Okay, so we're in trust for a year. Trust that it's safe to step into the light. Trust that it's safe to share your song, your poem, your story in the circle. It's safe to raise your hand and say, I have an offering, and let everyone watch you as you offer it up. It's safe to let some of the walls around your heart begin to melt away so that you can give and receive more love. You can let love seed into you more. Let it move through you. Let it talk to you. Let it sing the songs of love that connect all of us to everything. Can I trust? Can I trust that I'll be okay? Can I trust that I'm safe? Because the truth is, Six of Wands doesn't always feel safe because we live in the projection field. And sometimes when we're in a Six of Wands, it is triggering to others and it's threatening to others. That's why the Sun and Leo has malefic qualities. We can't always be sure that everyone will stay when we offer from our heart, when we offer what we're bringing. When we say, I'll stand up and share, there will be people who leave. It's just not for them. Can I trust that I'm still safe even though it's not for everyone? So what do we have to have in order to watch people leave? What do we have to have to watch as some people misunderstand you? They don't see you. They don't see you in the fullness of your with the frequency that you're bringing through. They don't see the you that it's coming from, that you know it's coming from. So that's why Six of Wands really requires, and this is how you get out of the five. It requires like the anchor deep down within yourself to know yourself, to know who you are, and the love that you're sharing is coming from. That's why it's fixed, because the anchor is coming through the knowing of yourself and rooting your sun down into the earth in spite of however people feel about it. Leo is not about other people's validation. It has much more to do with shining from the inside out from a rooted place. But the question of, do you trust? Do you trust that there will be those who can't wait to receive your offering? They really appreciated your offering. They were moved by your offering. They were entertained by your offering. They're still being changed by your offering. Can you trust that people want to see you? And can you trust that it will feel really good to share from that place inside of you? We're so full of passion and excitement and love for something. You just cannot help but share it. You just cannot help it. You cannot help it. It's got to come through. It feels so good. It feels so good. It feels so good to let it come through. And it comes through and you're sharing, and there will be those who warm their hands by that fire. Can you trust that? Can you trust that? The Six of Wands requires trust. It's the only way. Not trust that everyone's going to like it, though. Not trust that no one will leave and that everyone will get you and everyone's going to be so happy for you. No. But when you're anchored into your own heart, the more you anchor there and make a home of it, the more it's okay. It's okay that it's not for everyone. But you know what? If this makes me so happy to share, I bet there are going to be people who love receiving this too, because I love this. And there you have it. Now you're constellating other human beings around what you share. You're constellating people to how you put yourself out into the world, your music, your teachings, your art, your world. When you're sharing from that abundant place of your enthusiasm, which is nonverbal because it's fire, it is a magnet to those that want to constellate around that fire. That doesn't mean though that you're now going to be the sun of all time and that you're hogging sunlight, because everybody's a sun and they're all doing it too. We're sharing with one another. We're warming each other up. And this is aliveness. This is the chaos of aliveness. It's chaotic because we can't manage it and we can't control it. We just have to trust. Trust is the key word. So I would really love for you to like put that in your pocket, the trust piece here, as you are living your Jupiter and Leo experience. I said I would talk about Seven of Wands. Here it is up in my face. Like, don't you not talk about this? Okay. Okay. So there are a lot of different reads on the Seven of Wands. For me, the Seven of Wands has more to do with endurance than hypervigilance. I can see how Seven of Wands can be the hypervigilance of trying to keep your ground, keep your success, keep your spotlight. But it has to be more than that to me. To me, it also just has to do with like, I'm hearing entropy. Like it's, I like to think of five, six, seven of wands also in terms of my running practice, where the five is like the inner battle to actually hit the pavement to begin with. And like all the parts of me that are like arguing with the run. The six of wands is like the run's been amazing. I forgot I was running. It's so awesome. And then the seven of wands is like, this is hard. I want this to be over. And I'm not done yet. And I'm enduring because I committed and I know that this is like something that I can do. It's just uncomfortable. And I'm going to feel really good when I get to the end of this, but I don't like it. So I think that there's an aspect to the seven that can describe a kind of fading when you know you've sort of your trip has peaked and you're coming out of it, and it's a bummer. And your ego can come in wanting to really have opinions about how this is a problem. And so I do think that there's something to say here about cycles and how, we're always in many cycles. And like our overculture expectation of success is that we're literally writing Six of Wands like constantly, but that is not true about life. We have these times where everything can feel very up and then it fades and we're letting a period go away, right? Like for me in 2024, I was in a big Six of Wands year because the same week my book came out, the astrology podcast came out on Unshaming the Signs. And it was a massive catapult that I was writing the rest of the year. And I mean, in many ways, I still am writing it. But 2025, I realized like I was kind of fading off from all of that work, all of that energy, all the Five of Wands that went into like constructing these, putting myself in a position to have a week, have a year like that. Like everything that went into that, then writing it, and then starting to feel like, I think that that phase of my life is sort of fading, like these things all still matter to me, but I'm wondering what's going to come next. Like I'm not in the book launch anymore. So what even am I in? It's kind of a weird experience because you're like still sort of in it, but I'm not in it anymore. How do I feel about that? There's some grief, I think. So I do think the seven is also just allowing yourself to kind of be cyclical with these things. And everything that led up to that mattered. The writing of it matters. And then the how you hold yourself on the other side also matters in your relationship to yourself, in your relationship to how you care for yourself, how you love yourself, and how you talk about yourself, how you think about yourself in the world, the way you treat yourself through all the five, six, seven is like the defining energy of your life. How you treat yourself through five, six, seven, like that shows you everything you need to know about your relationship to yourself. And your relationship to yourself is going to be how your life feels. So if you want your life to feel like a comfortable place, like being with spending time learning how to be gentle and loving and also honest with yourself through five, six, seven is a powerful curriculum to put yourself on, I would say. And unshaming is really important in this. So, um, it's like, why would anybody want a six if five and seven are utterly miserable? We have to learn how to make five and seven. We have to learn the skills to make a home in the five and the seven, like have the rituals, have the practices to support ourselves so that we can give ourselves periods of sixes, right? Why would you want a six if you're going to be miserable in five and seven? So that's just very logical to me. Um, yeah, or even like how do you treat yourself in the sixth? Are you second guessing how you're holding it? Are you wishing it would hurry up because it's so weird and high sensation to be on top? Um, like your relationship to self is just gets revealed through the five, six, seven. And Leo is very much like your relationship to yourself because it's the way of the sun. Powerful thing. That brings me to the death of Carolyn Elliott and um yeah, just yeah, it's a wild thing that the person from whom I learned so much about being with the parts of me that I think of as taboo or unlovable or ugly or problems It seems that ultimately, because she took her own life, I think that from what she wrote in June, she experienced success so rapidly, and her success was so tied to her results. Her success was so Six of Wands and so tied to the magic of manifestation that when the magic wasn't manifesting, there was a kind of loss of self. And it really brings to mind to me as we relate to Leo, when we want to bring something into form to be celebrated within, like even just bringing a song to the campfire, um, the result, like what is the result? Do people love it? Do people not love it? Did you get a huge round of applause? Not so much, like there's the part of you that is bringing something forth to experience the high sensation of results resulting. And then there's the part of you that loves yourself no matter what happens with the results. The results, whatever, with myself no matter what. And yeah, it's just really, really sad. I Some of my favorite teachings have been her book, Existential Kink, and the taboo persona, like huge for me. Um, Let me think about the taboo persona is probably my biggest one. Well, I learned Solve and Coagula from Carolyn, which is an alchemical teaching about in order to alchemize something, you're taking a base material to turn it into something else, a more potent version of it. And to do that, you break the material apart and then you reconstitute it into something longer lasting. Like if you were to make a spagyric with rose, you take the rose petals now become this form of rose that is much more long lasting and potent. So if you apply that to yourself, it's the basics of alchemy are the things that I teach. Like to me, unshaming is a form of solve. It's a form of like dissolving the old stories, dissolving the hold that these patterns and attachments and identities had on us so that we can reconstitute from a more authentic, soul driven place, listening to our desires and our dreams and come into new form and more potent version of ourselves. So we're not really changing. We're becoming more potent in who we are by releasing and the dissolving of what really was like conditioned into us. It's not really us. So, so grateful. So, so grateful for these teachings. It's so powerful. So powerful. Many of you know that, because I've told this story many times, that the emergent no and vulture magic came forward in part because a major emergent no in that time of life was leaving Carolyn's community. And it was a really important thing for me because she revealed enough about her for me to know that I don't want to be in her community anymore. I don't want to pay this person. even though I fucking love her teachings and I'm growing so much here. Who am I to stay here? If I stay, it's because I'm so afraid that I can't have success, I can't be wealthy unless I stay. I can't get behind that. And for so long, I was afraid to hold a large community because I was afraid I would become a wraith like version of myself under the pressures of power and wealth. But the whole experience like really fortified me to know myself and to know like what I will never be, what I will never be okay with. And for that, I am grateful. And really having to reckon with that really helped me to see that we are complicated, paradoxical human beings, and I can choose to no longer be a member of her community and still revere her as a teacher who provided so many wonderful practices and teachings that truly changed my life. Oh, another one was the deepest fear inventory. So I found out about it way late in the game, I guess, because of my travels. But um, yeah, feeling for her communities, her families, her loved ones, and also really holding the complexity of being magical people in the marketplace where money is involved and we're doing magic together. And it's sometimes things go awry, which they did, which is why I had to leave. It was horrific. It's horrific when you feel the need to leave a teacher, especially rapidly. Like I got to get I got to do the eject button like today. So, yeah, like one of the things that I learned from that in a Leo way was that I want to believe. I trust that I am the kind of leader that can hear my community if they have questions, concerns, if they want to hold me accountable, if I need to repair. Can I trust myself? Can I trust myself that I can listen? And the process of that, um, I think, is kind of the only way through with Leo. In order, because with Leo, we're holding to ourself while still being able to have our heart open, right? So a lot of times, because of narcissism in our communities and families, or recovering, it can feel like I can't, if I sit here and listen to how I've harmed, then I'm abandoning myself because maybe we used to have a pattern of taking responsibility for things that weren't ours to keep somebody else happy. So like learning how to sit with that discomfort, we're staying with ourselves and we're staying heart open to others. This is a skill we are very in need of growing in our world. Very in need of growing. And repair is possible. And it's really essential to leadership in our time. Like in our time, we really need leaders who have themselves and are able to listen with open hearts at the same time. So that is something that I wanted to share about the leadership piece of Leo, as well as the piece around wanting to have results and also what happens when you don't get the results that you wanted. Who are you then? How do you care for yourself? Like for me, I like to take on Six of Wands at the pace that all parts of me can keep up, including my practices in the five and the seven, so that I'm like seeing myself from all the angles and checking on all parts of me that I'm okay no matter what the external conditions, and that my self image isn't too connected to being on the top of the horse. Um, yeah. And finally, I said I was going to bring this back to the Odyssey. I finally saw it. We were going to see it in Europe. We found out that it is indeed good because Matt and I have a very love-hate relationship with Christopher Nolan. Very, very disappointed by Oppenheimer. Extremely disappointed. I feel like in this movie, he really addressed some of my biggest issues with that movie, namely that the horror of what was unleashed. In this case, the horror of the Trojan horse. I really appreciated how there was such focus around the aftermath of something's enacting something very shameful. And how do you come back to yourself? Like, how do you come back to yourself? Yeah. In this moment, I'm kind of blanking on the other things I was going to say about the Odyssey to tie it in. So I won't take up too much more time. Yeah. All right. Let me just tune in to see if there's anything else I wanted to say here. Yeah, I think that that's feels good to be back. I'll tell you that at the end of the yesterday, I was like shrieking with joy. I was so happy to be back at work. And I feel so lucky because I just, I just really love my work. I love what I do. I love creating for my podcast. I love creating for Instagram. I love creating for my students. I love being with my students. I love collaborating with my assistant, with my team, with facilitators that I bring in. I I create what I dream. It's the best. I feel so 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 happy when I'm sharing what I'm dreaming and what I'm thinking about and what's on my heart. And I can't believe that I get to be really richly paid to to do this and to help others in their emergence, their becoming, their transformational paths and their alchemy and all that they want to bring through for their ecosystems where they're the sun. I feel so, so, so happy when I'm speaking astrology, even though I'm not really an astrologer. I guess I am. I'm not. You tell me. Just kidding. Really, I just love to speak it. I love what it's given me so much. I love what the tarot gives me so much. It's just so much healing in finding the language that really it helps me sync with the frequency of love in the universe, which is really where I want to be. I want to all the time feel so connected to the love that's everywhere. And when I get to teach this way, it just allows me an excuse to be there with it all the time, letting it remake me every single day. It makes me so happy. My heart is so happy. To me, astrology is music. And if you listen to Moon, I imagine you are in here in part because it feels this way to you too. Yes, Odysseus always coming home, always coming home, always coming home. It's a circuitous route, you know, it can take time. There's intelligence to the forays, to the years of being in fives. Ultimately, always coming home, always coming home, always coming home. Thank you. See you at the next one.